Welcome to a new Daily Top Askreddit video. Today's topic.
Never argue with an idiot. They will drag you down to their level and beat you with experience. What's your best real life example of this? Removed. This is one of the things that drives me crazy in today's world. So many people think that they win an argument when the other person goes silent. I actually just had this discussion last week with someone at work. He was telling me about a win that he had arguing with someone online because after 50 comments, they disappears. My take is that you win an argument by having the other side agree that your point seems more valid than their original position. Just frustrating someone with your immobility isn't a win in my book. A toddler can do that. You win an argument by changing someone else's views. Irrational people think they've won a debate when the other person falls silent because the irrational person thinks they've achieved dominance. It's said you can't logic an irrational person out of an opinion. By the same token, irrational people think they don't need to logic other people into an opinion. It's an authoritarian mindset. The day before Biden's inauguration, a coworker told me the military would execute him live on stage and Trump would walk out to be named as president again. When I laughed and said there's literally no chance of it, he said, "Dude, what do you know? You work in a warehouse in nowhere. You don't know shit," ignoring that he's my coworker in the same warehouse. You know, you're right. What was I thinking? Anyways, I'll see you at work tomorrow. Quote, months after the election, my mom was still convinced that Trump was going to take office. I couldn't believe anyone would fall for that shit. Anytime I've tried to explain marginal tax rates to an employee, that urban legend absolutely needs to die. So many people completely fuck themselves over for absolutely no reason because they heard someone else repeating it. Sometimes it can indeed work that way if you're on benefits or food stamps or similar, but taxes? No. Just no. Whoever came up with that lie has done a lot to keep the rich rich and the poor poor. At least a little bit. Convincing poorer and middle-class people that the government will screw them over if they get paid more, and that the boss is helping them out by paying them less. Ugh. And people are still falling for it to this day. All my coworkers think they'll lose so much money if they work overtime. As a result, I'm on like my 30th week of picking up on call and taking in the money. I've tried to explain it to them, but they don't listen. For a short while, I worked as a line cook at a Cracker Barrel, and there was a little saloon-style door that led to the staff section. Kitchen, bathroom, etc. There was a staff-only sign on the door, above the doors, and on the wall behind the doors at eye level. Usually if someone from the customer side comes in, they said, "Coming in," before opening the door. So they didn't hit anyone. But of course customers didn't know that. So when this dude opened the door and hit a waitress carrying a ton of drinks, we were reasonably upset with him. He said, "You should really put a sign up." We showed him all the signs, and he goes, "That seems a bit excessive." Quote, we showed him all the signs, and he goes, "That seems a bit excessive. And yet it wasn't enough for you." My old office was across the street from a federal courthouse, and on the first Wednesday of the month when the bankruptcy people had court, our parking lot would always fill up with people illegally parking in our lot. Despite no parking. You will be towed. For REALSIES! Exclamation mark. Quote, signs being all over the place. Whenever they would inevitably park in our lot and I would tow them, they would come in and scream that they were going to sue us and that they towed us without warning. When cell phone cameras became common, I started taking a photo of each car before it was towed, because they were almost always directly in front of one of the signs. This shut him up way less often than it should have. One guy accused me of photoshopping it. Lol. Like you can't just see the sign. Removed. Similar. I had a teenager bruised head to toe with strangulation marks. Parents adamant she should have given him her social media passwords. That reminds me of the US family welfare judge who beat the ever-living shit out of his daughter for pirating BioShock. Removed. Does he know that'll kill him? Yeah, sounds like op. Maybe unknowingly. Stopped a SUI attempt. That's not a napping spot. There's a poor legal strategy called the Shaggy defense. Maybe he was trying that. https://en.m.wikipedia.org/wiki/shaggy_defense. Ha ha ha. Exclamation mark. Oh my lord, they used Shaggy as a reference in a real law thing. Amazing. Wasn't me. I thought I had a no-lose argument going up against someone who believes in homeopathy. I left the discussion feeling like I lost somehow. Edit. Appreciate all the comments. Some very funny replies. Just a quick clarification. I was specifically referring to homeopathic dilutions as far as the discussion went. I felt like I lost because I was dumbfounded by their argument and realized quickly that it was a belief system that I was up against and didn't want to waste either of our time. The person being a naturopath that my wife used to go to. They had obviously had this argument many times and had various convoluted responses to all your standard points. Essentially, they had more experience in this argument than me. Thankfully, that interaction resulted in my kids no longer having to take so much medicine, which was my main issue because I could see that it was eroding their confidence. Sure, it's just water so it can't do any harm, right? Wrong. It meant every time they saw the naturopath they would come home with a whole new set of ailments. And the eventual thinking of, what is wrong with me? There was never anything wrong with them. I always ask why the remedies have the memory of almonds, or whatever, and not the memory of raw sewage. If you show me that, say, homeopathy works, then I will change my mind. I'll spin on a fucking dime. I'll be embarrassed as hell. But I will run through the streets yelling, it's a miracle. Take physics and bin it. Water has memory. And while its memory of a long-lost drop of onion juice seems infinite, it somehow forgets all the poo it's had in it. Single quote. You show me that it works and how it works. And when I've recovered from the shock, I will take a compass and carve, fancy that, on the side of my cock. Tim Minchin, Storm. A German TV show made a great bit. Basically saying, let's say it works. How come all the water used in production can be dumped into the sewage? If the idea is that it helps against the illness that it causes, and the water added the more potent it becomes, then dumping it into the sewage would be poisoning the whole nation. The waste of homeopathic remedies are an environmental hazard and have to be treated that way. Basically saying if it is real, we need to heavily regulate it. If it doesn't have to be regulated, it is not real. Now we all know how homeopathic companies would feel about strict regulations. He was delusional.